stuff.
Hello.
Hello.
Happy Tuesday. Oh my goodness.
This always just sneaks up on us.
Kari had her earbuds in. I'm making faces at the camera. Welcome, you guys, to Studio R12's live on Tuesday at noon. We're happy that you're here, and we have some great lessons today about how to use brushes.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Yes, we often have a lot of questions about how can I do this technique? How can I try that? So we want to show you how you can get the most out of your brushes and maybe get a little extra out of them.
Yeah, and you can use your brushes to make your projects be like a little bit more extra, to use extra in the nice nomenclature. But yeah, you can totally embellish your projects if you want to take it one step further. And it's nice just to know some basic operating procedures when you use a brush. And that is hard to know.
Yes, I'm excited for this lesson.
I've been there, done that. Yeah. Kari is a new painter in the last year? Year and a half?
2020 was when I started. So
2 years. And hadn't really painted much of anything, I don't think. Maybe, did you paint a boardroom before?
Once.
Yeah. So just a little bit of experience. So then she has moved into the video organization, managing my life.
Well, and the funny thing
Without her, nothing would get done. So we just want to say
thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
My first video that I filmed was not planned. I think Patty was down in the back, and I ended up having to fill in, and then it just kind of ripped off the Band-Aid, I think.
Yeah, then it's like, there we go. Okay, I can do this. I can, yeah. So, okay, welcome, guys.
Yes.
And go ahead. You probably got housekeeping.
I have a couple things to share with you. Last week, we released 2 videos. One of them, if you want to pull that around there, was our Hello Fall 4-foot welcome porch sign. And when I shared it on our Facebook page and I told you guys this was a labor of love, we have painted this.
It was a labor of love.
3 or 4 times. And the one that we videoed was bright orange. And then this is kind of what we ended on. Patty painted it again after we filmed and toned it down a little.
Yeah, and what started this project, we knew we really loved the hello, and we loved the fall, and we loved the shorter, because a lot of people just like the shorter. I think it's 50-50.
Yeah.
But we knew we loved it, but I wanted to make something that we could use in an ad, something that just took it all the way across the finish line. And I fought with the orange like nobody's business. I mean, I had arguments. I had bruises. The orange beat me up. It was bad. And I mean, I'm experienced, and I had, so you take an orange like this, and it's just almost neon when you put it on.
So
4 feet.
big.
Yeah, 4 feet of stuff. And pinks are just as bad. I fight with pink almost. The first project you painted with pink, you like nailed it, and I was like, oh, how did you do that?
She came out and she said, "Oh, you're painting it pink."
Yeah, and I was like, ooh, brave choice. Yeah, and it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. But so what we did with this, if you can look on YouTube, and if you're not a subscriber, you might want to go ahead and do that. Hit subscribe, ring the bell. If you don't want to subscribe, just give us some thumbs up, because we're a small business and the algorithm loves interaction. Leave us comments. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Okay, but what we ended up doing is we ended up toning the color down. And we ended up adding chicken wire around here. We ended up adding some antiquing. We just settled everything down.
Calmed it down.
Yeah, it was wild. But you can check out that video on YouTube.
On YouTube, yep.
Yeah. So.
And then last week we also released the one that we were so excited. Oops, stencils, phone, everything's falling.
Do you know when you pile a big pile of stencils, they're slippery?
And then last week we also released the brick coffee. And that was just a really fun one, showing you guys how to do the brick texture, the texture through your stencil.
Yeah.
And then how to paint over the texture. And then also how to do a reverse stencil. When we see things painted, it was really hard for me to grasp the concept of the reverse. And so with that, we ended up doing a circle and then stenciling over it. And I think that was an interesting lesson.
Really have like almost like a base coat with the base coat and then a stencil, so it's just like layering your stencils,
It is,
really. And that's
absolutely.
such a like hippie noodle blowing thing, that you can take something and fill in a space of it. When I saw this, I think I was on vacation, family guests or something like that, and Kari sent me a text and said, this is what I did today. And I was like, oh my God, like I forgot you could do that, you know? So it's easy to forget you could do that. And that's what we're here for, is to inspire you.
Yes, agreed.
As well as teach you.
As well as teach you. And then this weekend, we have a fun release coming, and we are pumped about this one.
One of our super secret that we've been talking about it, but we couldn't show you yet. So now we get to show you. Okay, ready? Dun 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 dun. Ready? Bum 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 bum. Drum roll. Ta-da! Spooky. Okay, so this is a giant example of a fade. This is an ombre to the top and an ombre to the bottom, bright in the middle, and we've got an illuminated moon. We're going to show you how to do that. And then way down there at the bottom, we've got lighted castle at the bottom.
Yeah.
And so it is just all the things. I think that's all the things and an extra.
And we got inspiration for this online. We were searching around and we decided, well, we're going to put a bunch of stencils together to see what it comes up with. And I think we used 7 or so.
7 or 8.
7 or 8 stencils.
So this was from like way a long time ago. This was from like middle time ago. This was somebody else's bats. It was a different spooky word. That was from a Monster Mash project. We took all these stencils and we made it into one. And then what we did is we redesigned it.
Yeah.
And made it into just a
one stencil.
Yeah, stencil.
Patty painted it twice. The first time she painted it with all the individual stencils, and she's like, maybe we should just make this one.
It would have ended up with all those stencils. It would have ended up costing like $80 for
but
a million stencils.
But it's so cool that you can put all of your stencils together and use all individual stencils and make that amazing porch sign.
Yeah, so you take your bit of tree that you've got on one and your witchy poo that you've got on another. Like you just wombo combo it. Like, don't think of your stencils as one stencil. Think of them as parts of the whole. So yeah, super exciting.
Yay. Okay. All right, and I think that is it for housekeeping. I do have one more.
Okay.
Today we're talking about brushes, and so I'm about to share the link on Facebook and on YouTube. Today we are having a brush sale. All single brushes are 30% off, and then all brush sets are 40% off. Today's date is June 7th, 2022.
We laugh at that because there was a couple year discrepancy.
Date, month, year, they were all wrong.
Everything was wrong. We were just jacked that day. Okay, so we are going to get started. So you want to know about brushes. We carry the best brushes on our website. We bring them in from multiple sources because not everybody makes the best version of a brush. And then I traveled the trade show circuit for years and years and years as a professional artist. And so then I would get to try everybody's brushes, and I was always you're always seeking a better brush. And then when you would teach in big conferences, people would show you a brush that they think is fabulous. And so that's how I learned about doing the highlighting with a dome brush, is from a teacher that was teaching at my shop. Stuff like that. So you just pick up bits and pieces. So there's a lot of knowledge that I've got here. I'm trying to keep it super pared down so that you just get to tiptoe into it. I know that it's scary for some people. So we're going to start with the oval glaze. Okay, so the oval glaze, my favorite size is the number 1. Supply chain issues are seemingly never ending. I know they're going to end, but the number 1 is apparently not available. You want to watch for this, and any of the brushes, especially brushes, are usually made in overseas places. And so when you have that happening, you are going to have supply chain issues. We've had it where handles were bad or not available for years. We've had the paint for the handle wasn't available. We've had the brush nylon wasn't available. There's always some different reason for doing it. But the oval glaze is one that I keep this number 1 at my house, in my office, at my desk. I have one everywhere that I am because it is great for patching a little paint. It is great for base coating a project on the fly. Like we were camping last week and there was like a little piece of like tacky brass something in our travel trailer, and I was like, I just need to give that a little black paint, and that's gonna look fabulous, you know? So you just have it available, and it just does all the things. So I'm gonna show you how it does all the things. I'm gonna show you both brushes, but the number one is the one that I love. This one just starts getting small. I tend to be a bigger person as far as like, I like things darker, stronger, bolder, you know, so I tend to be a big movement. I like larger size projects. A lot of people are really comfortable in this size. This brush is perfect for these medium to small sizes. When you get into the bigger ones, you want the biggest brush. Okay, so let's talk about the Oval Glaze. Okay, so this brush is made out of a very soft Taklon. You want to watch. We show you putting these dome brushes in the water every week, and the nose of that brush is super hard and firm. It can lay there in the water and hit its nose on the bottom without ever damaging its head. But if you leave one of these brushes there, it's going to start bending and it's going to misshape the brush. So that's the biggest, most important thing. And we do have a video on how to care for your brushes. So when I'm using a brush, I almost always will wake it up. So I wash it in some water and then I pinch out all the water, okay? I don't stand on these, generally speaking, but I do just give it a good pinch. Okay, a wet brush. So Bill Nye the Science Guy says that water molecules are attracted to water molecules. So when you have a wet brush and wet paint, it's gonna make the two things attract to each other and it's gonna make things behave better. Okay, so we are gonna show, I've got a list here because Kari made me one. We're gonna show base coating and varnishing, or base coating and then blending first. So if I wanted to base coat this in a color, and actually let me show you a finished thing first so you see where we're going. Rusty, can you reach that guy? Thank you. Okay, so this technique is where we're going with the blending, and I've got to base it before I do anything else. So do you see this dreamy color going through the sky and this purple coming through? And it's just this kind of blendy dreaminess. That makes the best backgrounds. It is fabulous to do. So this is in a video that you can look on YouTube. This is a really cute little video. And you can learn that in like more detail. This is gonna be just like a quick overview.
I actually shared just now on both of our pages the link to a playlist that was actually a three-part video. So we have a whole playlist on that, and I believe one is specifically background only.
Okay.
That's pretty.
I know. Okay, so let's take a close-up of this paint I just spit out of my bottle. This has got its own little blending thing going on right there. So this is obviously number 14 in a color I don't use very often. Okay, so it hasn't been shaken up. So you see that the paint is flat. You see that it's separating. Always shake your paints, like always, 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 always. Don't be like me. Okay, so we get in there, shake our paint. Now let's see what we got. And so notice that it's got a nice dome shape. It's not flat and it's not separated. And just always shake your paints. You want to do that. Okay, and I'm actually gonna get out my other color because I'm going to do a little wet and wet. So you know that I probably don't use this color very often either, so I'm giving it a good shake. Notice that I normally use a foam brush to base coat. Doing this blending technique with a foam brush would be difficult. So that's something that would not work. So while I'm dirty brushing, and dirty brushing is just where you mix some paint on your brush, I'm going to pick up my blue. I'm going to put my blue down. My very flat board. Do the board shuffle. All right, you guys, now tell us if you're getting the rain that we're getting right now, because whew, did we get some rain?
Last night was the first night since we moved into our new house that it really rained. And so we went and sat on the front porch, and there's a meme going around right now about people sitting on their front porch. It's kind of like an age thing. It's like, oh, we needed this rain. And that was me and my husband last night, sitting on our front porch. Oh, look at the rain.
Yeah, it feels so, and it's so cleansing. Like it just smells good, feels good. I love it. Okay, so we're getting a coat of paint on there. If you're in a heated, hot area, climate, this might be something that you're gonna wanna play with a little bit, do it in the cooler part of the day. I know that my friends in Arizona have struggled with this when I've taught there. It has been like, how are we gonna keep this paint wet? So I can do a couple things. I can use the misting bottle and I can just give it a little mist, and then I can go over it with my brush. So now that's talking about base coating. This is halfway full of paint. I didn't scoop and plaster it. I just put my brush down in the edge of it. I'm gonna talk this thing dry, so we're gonna have to show you how to handle that. But I'm just smoothing as I go, and my technique is a little bit swinging, like I'm sweeping the porch, okay? So I'm not going here and stopping because I'll make these marks right there. So I just kick it up, kick it back, kick it up, kick it back, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and mist. This lid likes this container. Okay, and then to do some blending and slip slapping is what I call it, because you're doing it in like an X slapping kind of technique. Pick up a lighter color, dirty brush, so I'm in the blue's not even wiped out. And now I'll start adding that there, and I can just start blending that little bit of purple in. And that is a really great way to get just a little bit of movement. And so when I'm putting the paint down, I'm pushing it down on the flat, and then I lift up my brush and I feather it out. And because that background is wet, it's gonna blend and not sit right on top of a dry surface. So some of these techniques are gonna be things that you're gonna be like, huh? Like a little head scratchy. When I was new to doing some of these techniques, I had no idea. So you learn them, you pick them up, you try them. Those cardboard boxes that come to your front porch all the time are great ways to experiment with things. Just pick up some colors and see. Now, some technique basics. You want your colors, when you're gonna do this, slip slapping, you want your colors to be close in value. So you don't want like let's pull out an example. Okay, so I did a blue, right? I wouldn't want to do a light baby blue because see how much contrast difference there is? That would look really good if I was doing something that needed contrast, but I don't want contrast all the time. So you want to be careful not to have high contrast. Notice that these two are very close. If you squint at them, you can almost barely tell the difference in their darkness. And that's what you want. You want it just a little bit closer in value. I'm gonna let this dry.
And I'm gonna read a comment and do a giveaway.
Yay!
Our friend Deb says, I have to commend you on the quality of your stencils. I ordered from another company and oh Lord. So Deb, thank you. We like hearing that.
We can be bought.
Yes, Deb gets a stencil for this nice comment. This is actually a brand new stencil from our brand new 2022 Christmas collection. It's the Hello Winter. So Deb, we will message you, Deb Bloomfield, and get your address and get this out.
Yeah, and on our stencils, so StudioR12.com, we have more than 6,000 titles, and we have, each of those can be 3 to 12 sizes. Yeah. I mean, there's some that have a jillion sizes, it seems like. So know that we have like a lot. We've been doing this a while. We use these in our projects. I use them professionally. But also know that they're 7 mil, which is the thickness of them. If you're at 10 mil, which the ones that you see at Michael's that are bright colored that don't have any wrapping on them are probably 12 mil. And then there's a couple of companies that do them in 10 mil. What happens when you stencil on something like that with a stencil that thick is it totally builds up, and then you end up with like a texture and it looks stencily. And I think when I look at like this sign right here, I can see the bridging, but the bridging is attractive. I can see, I can't feel the texture of my stencil because we use light layers. If I used a thicker stencil, that would not be the case. So that's super important to know. And then if you went lighter than that in a 5 mil, your stencil's going to be like saggy, jaggy all over the place. So 7.5 mil, which is ours, is like the little sweet spot, we think. It's thin enough, but not too thick. So we're Goldilocks.
Alicia asked, would hot pink and deep purple be a good combo for mixing that background?
I think that hot pink would be too light to your purple. So you might need to figure out a way to darken your pink. We don't really deal in, so is this like 61? A hot pink?
I would do 61.
So is that the hot pink?
I would say that would be more of a, or it might even be the 68.
Give me a 61, 68.
Which those are pretty similar. I think those are probably the hottest.
Is that what we're talking about? Because when
I'm
thinking hot pink, I'm like over here.
I would consider that more of a bubble gum.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I would say 61 to 68.
And then what was the second color?
The deep purple.
Like here? Yeah. So if you squinted your eyes at that, you would see that you don't have too much. So you would put the dark color down first, and then you do the light color over it. And sometimes there's a way that you can, when we get to, do you have a pen?
Yeah.
Let me borrow that. When we get to the dome brush, I'll show you another technique. So that's what I love about having this live is you can have a question that inspires me to add a technique that I remember that I know, because like sometimes you sit there and you have like a list of things and you can't remember everything you've ever done. So, okay, I'm going to put this aside. We can also varnish with this brush, and I'm going to get the smaller brush and varnish.
And while she's talking about that really quick, I forgot to mention in our housekeeping that right now on our Facebook page, we are having a giveaway.
Ooh.
If you go, we have a post that has, it says giveaway really big on it, that we are giving away a tall porch stencil of your choice. If you comment and leave us some photos of your stenciled projects.
Well, it'll be a drawing.
Yeah, we're going to do I will do a drawing.
Yeah.
From somebody who puts their pictures there.
Yeah. We love, and so we're not the only ones. You guys love it when you guys share with other stencil fans. So make sure that you're sharing because it is fabulous. Okay, this is a cute little piece of lumber that we painted, you know, this cute little Stay Weird. When we paint over in our workshops, we'd like to have things for middle school kids and, well, even grown-ups. Sometimes I just need to stay weird as well. So, you know, that's fine. But I just rubbed my hand over this and it's super rough. So I am going to take a finer sandpaper, not super thick. I'm just gonna knock that back just a little bit. Okay, and then I'm gonna show you how to varnish this. And so I've got matte varnish, Deco Arts, Duraclear matte varnish. It's something we carry on StudioR12.com, and it's not shiny. This is super great for things that you don't want to have like a sheen on. Anything you're going to hang outside, make sure you use matte varnish because then it won't reflect the sun. Super hard to see a shiny sign. Okay, so now we're going to go into our paint. We're going to wake up our brush. And when I do that, it looks like I'm hitting the head, but I'm actually hitting it like this on the bottom and then like this on the bottom. That's how I push on my brushes. When I do round brushes, I do the same thing just so we cover that right away. I don't ever do this because you'll damage it. Dome brushes are super durable, super, like you can't almost screw them up. But when you get into the artist brushes, you can screw them up really easily. So be really cautious of your money. You know, money. I don't want to talk about it. Okay. We were talking about gas earlier. That's not talking about it. Okay. So we'll go here and I'm picking up a generous amount. Rusty, can you get that? You got that? Okay. Rusty's so good. Thank you, Rusty. All right. So pick up a generous amount, but not like a scoopy amount. Okay. So we're just working it in. The reason I want a generous amount, and then I've got a fan going over here. I'm going to turn that off because any accelerated drying is going to make pull marks happen in your project and you don't want pull marks. So pick up. And if I have generous varnish, then it will spread easily. And then I love, watch the difference in that color to this color. Varnish really wakes the paint up. Pick up some more. You can't stop and start with varnishing. You have to keep going. But notice that, I don't know if you can see it, I can see it. And I've got that brush resting in there and I'm gonna get in trouble. But there's no chunky stuff on there. There's no ridges, there's no pulls, there's none of that stuff. So this is a fabulous varnish brush. I love it. I'm gonna rinse this out using that flat on the edge of the bristles. If you're just coming to this, make sure you go backwards just a little bit to see what I showed. Okay, and I'm gonna rinse this guy out. Never like to leave these kinds of brushes in my water container. This one is gonna be stubborn because he's full of paint. So I'm pushing on its flat edge to just work that out. And if you can still see, watch that brush video, if you can still see color, you still have color. So what you can do is you can put this aside, you can put it in a plastic bag, take it to your sink and wash it out.
Janice asked, how long do you wait before you put on varnish?
You know, like the paint should be blow dried significantly, like dry. Or it should be like an hour. You know, it doesn't have to be a forever thing. Just like make sure it's dry. You don't want to be smearing things around. Okay, so that's our oval glaze brush. That's just a little bit of what that brush will do. It makes the most beautiful flowers. It makes beautiful, all kinds of effects. You can do antiquing with it. You can do all kinds of things. We just were talking before this, we're gonna do a series of brush, all the things this brush can do, videos, and have them on YouTube so that you can look up each kind of brush so that you know what it can do. And I think that'll be really interesting. Okay, so we're gonna use Patty's favorite dry brush next. And this is the number 6. I'm gonna rinse that out. It has some sizing. When you get a new brush, you're gonna have sizing in it. And that is just to keep the shape of the brush. You just rinse that out with water and then you're good to go.
And that's and with dome brushes, that does not have that sizing.
No, dome brushes do not have the sizing that I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Dome brushes are, I don't know, they just keep their shape. Okay, so now this is a cousin to this guy right here, the one I just showed you, but this is a little version. And the way that, and actually we'll go with this one because you can see it better. Okay, so this is very much like the dome brush. We talk about this all the time, that they're shaped in a dome. This one is shaved up both sides of the flat, and then it's curved. This one is cut the same way. But what is cool about this is you can use that to your advantage. I'm going to pick on, excuse me, I've got the hiccup burps. I'm not sure what's going on. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna pick this guy and we're gonna just pick up a color that is not really in this, but I'll tint it just a little bit maybe. I think we'll just maybe just tickle it. Okay, this one is gonna be harder to catch. Can you dial it in really tight, Rusty? Like get right in here on this happy. And I'll do the A because I feel like the A is big enough to see. So I have, like through the stencil, I have put the highlight through the stencil using a dome brush. Okay, that's a really great way to get that highlight. But say you need to take it up a notch. Okay, so what you do is you're going to pick up your paint on your brush, and I'm just flat blending it, and I'll put this here. Can you see that? Put my paint flat through there until I start seeing some pickup on this side, but it's flat on this side. Then you always flick on your paper towel, and then when you come down here, you're tickling. You're so barely tickling. You just feather stroking. And then I can go across and then feather stroke. So what this does, they call it dry brushing because it makes the paint look dry, but see how that letter is popping?
Oh yeah.
And then this letter is a little bit, So, and we could go one step further. We could go maybe just in the same color. Always offload You could go a little bit less. So each highlight you would do less and less and less coverage. So just a little bit less. And you could really make these letters be kind of electric. So see, now it's even, even more so. You can do it with light paint and you can do it with dark paint. So if I wanted to take my shadow and I wanted to bring that down a little bit more, I could take my black paint, do the same application, flick it off on my paper towel, and then draw it down just a little bit more. That technique would make great antiquing as well, using a larger brush. Magic little brushes right there.
That's super great. Suzanne said, I learned this from you years ago.
Yes. Dry brushing is, oh my gosh. I learned it from Rosemary West years ago. I was having a pity party once when I owned a different shop. And I don't know why I was doing it, but my birthday was coming up in a few months. So I picked up the phone and called Rosemary West and said, will you come and teach on my birthday? And she was like, sure, I will. And I was like, I'm not having a pity party anymore. It was fabulous. Okay, so we did our dry brushing. Now we're going to go to our White Wonder with our spattering. We're going to do spattering, beards, and grass techniques. Okay, so we are going to come over here. Rusty, if you can get the corner of this guy. I can't see what Rusty sees, so if you notice, I've used the spatters really heavy on this to like antique the edge or frame the edge. So spattering can be like magic, just because you can use it for so many different things. And then I brought it all the way down the edge just to frame the piece of art in. So get that. Try not to wreck the studio.
Thank you.
Yes, I know, right? All right, so spattering. I think I'll use this little guy right here for some spattering. Okay, so this is just a cute little sign that we've done. If I was going to spatter you, I think this dark kind of blue would be maybe what I would do.
I wish you guys could have seen this table before I cleaned it today with all the spatter from
shoot.
last project. It was everywhere.
Yeah. And I apologize, actually. I have gone from thing to thing to thing here lately, and so I have been scattered.
We've been passing ships too.
Yeah, with your move. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is the White Wonder spatter brush. And so this is also cut uniquely, and I think that's what defines all these brushes, is a well-cut brush. Okay, so this is also shaved right here at the tip. It's got a nice big area right down here, and then it's oval glazed at the top, okay? And then it splays out. You can see it do like a really neat, I guess I'm showing Rusty over here, a really neat little toothy action right there, and it's amazing. Okay, and that is the secret to getting the spatters to release.
And this is the 1/2 inch, and this is our absolute favorite, and we just got a shipment, and we have 30.
30 guys.
So that
get on it.
It's very rare that we ever have more than like 5.
And I think what's different about this brush is this brush, it's a weird brush. It's not like a normal, you're not a basing brush, you're not shading, you're not stenciling. It's like a brush that has like a bunch of different uses, but they're almost mystery uses. And so unless you know the secret, you're not going to know the secret, and you're not going to know why you need it. So I think they just don't order that many in. So whatever the reason is, I'm supposing that reason. So here's how we do this. We get our brush, throw the water on the table. Okay. We get our brush and we fill it with water, like a lot of water. So I've got, good droplets, and I'm going to make a wet slurry. I'm just mixing with the whole brush. This brush can take some beatings. Okay, and then I've got a lot of painted samples over here, so I'm probably gonna come over to the trash can. Oh, I gotta show it on here. Hang on, let me find a way to protect.
I was hiding as soon as you start coming my way, I was like, nope, gonna get on my shoes.
If you have Gucci purses and fancy things. Whatever. No, what's a fancy purse name?
Gucci's a fancy
Okay,
purse.
is that?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if it was still a fancy.
I think so.
River City leather.
Yeah.
Yeah, our local leather shop makes beautiful
Yes.
River City leather. If
Yes,
you want to check out some cool
handmade.
things,
They're amazing.
handmade right here in our town, gorgeous. Anyway, if you have expensive stuff, Coach is the one I was thinking of, or your neighbor that you're painting with has expensive things, you want to be oh so careful. When we were painting for our studio workshop that we do in town, I had brand new leather boots. And I'm spattering and all the toes of my boots were spattered. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? Okay, so we have it wet. We're gonna test off, just knock the excess off both sides. See how that just releases gorgeous, gorgeous spatters. Once you knock off some pieces, and now this is gonna be all wet all around here, then you can come over here, and I like to anchor my big brush. And you can just spatter around. I'm gonna do one side only because I'm gonna do a different technique on here. Be careful, spatters stay wet forever. Like sometimes like half a day, if they're big ones like that. So that is how you spatter. And then one thing I like to show, let me wipe this off before I run something through it. On the back of here. So spattering, if you're up in the air, and Rusty, we're gonna be right down on here. So when I'm spattering up above, let me get a darker color so you can actually see it. Once again, contrast is everything. And you can spatter in white and black and light colors and always test off. Okay, so if I'm spattering up above, I get snow. It's nice and even. Got some snow. Can I see your pen again?
Yes.
Okay. So if I want to spatter in one area or the other, then just pretending just to show you where I'm aiming so that you know that I'm actually aiming there. Thank you. Okay. And so we're gonna go here. Is that good, guys?
Yes.
Now I'm gonna anchor my brush right here, and the tighter I want it, the closer to the ground I'll be. So if I want it lighter, or if I want it bigger, I'll be a little higher up in the air. So that keeps almost all of the spatters in that circle. So now if I want to tighten it up, I'm gonna go way down low, and I'm moving my brush back away so the spatters have to kind of jump just a little bit. Okay. And we do have some strays, but you can see that most of them landed right there in the middle of that. This is a magic spatter brush. You can't do that with a toothbrush, and with toothbrushes, you almost always get a trajectory. So this is fabulous, and it will change your hippie noodle? No.
It
might,
fine.
yeah.
Game changer.
Yeah, game changer, I like that better. Okay, so my notes have been duly spattered. And now we're gonna go to the Duster Stippler, which...
Are you gonna do, you mentioned beards and grass.
Oh, wait, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good job. Okay. Beards and grass. I don't have, he doesn't have any of that. Okay.
You could paint the beard on that gnome.
Ha.
Is he too big?
He's not too big. I don't want to wreck him. Well, let's do it, and then I'll wipe them off. Can you have me, Mr. Nomi? Ha. We need one more project or two on this.
We need a bigger table.
Okay, so we're gonna get out some gray. And I'm actually gonna get out a lighter gray so we don't have to mix.
Peg asked, what is your ratio of paint to water when you
I
spatter?
think it's almost equal. I think it depends. Some paints are thick and some paints are thin. You get a sense of it. It should be like cream. So not thin like water and not thick like what would be a heavier consistency, like paint. Yeah. So we'll get a gray. And so what you want to do with this kind of thing is you want to sneak up on it just a little bit. I am going to wet my paper towel with clean water so I can wipe him back, because he's a very basic, you know, he's like a color book kind of style, and that's how he's cute. So I don't want to make him into a painterly style just in his beard. But, so what you can do is you take the same technique, I got blue water, mix some water in your gray. You need as much water as you needed for the spatters. And I'm running out of room, so that's why you're seeing me jump around. And you definitely want to tap it off just to get rid of the excess. Okay, and then you're going to come down here.
Paint spatter?
Nope.
Oh.
Sweaty forehead. Okay, you're going to come over here. And now this, you're going to see how that makes like snaggletooth little shapes right there. Let me get a little bit more loaded now that I'm talking it dry. And you're going to tippy toe. So, and you're just going to shape follow. And then you can shape follow a little bit more down here. And then you can come down here. And you can just layer in some beardy poos. Okay, and then as you build,
it's amazing how much that changes the project. Just little simple techniques that just add so much to it.
Yeah, and so now he's just got those little scruffles in there. Mm-hmm. And so now you could build with a darker gray. And if you needed to back up, and maybe you made it a little bit like mistakey pants or something like that, where you just went a little too far, you could take the same technique and you could white to carve it out. Okay, and then if you make a big mistake, pre-have your paper towel with some water and wipe them off. Okay, and if you have stubborn areas, I've got a couple that are stubborn, you can pick up your click eraser.
And I'm going to ask this, just as a precursor, how long do you have to wipe it off before you can't wipe it off?
It just depends on your temperature. So now we're getting into summer, you know, and I'm going to put just a little drop of water on there because that's blue water. So I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to dip it in water. If you dip it in water, that will help you erase those lines.
And this project was also painted months ago. So it is,
it's dry.
The base of it is very dry.
Yeah. So then what that does for us, I'll show you, is it just takes off those squibbles. It's almost like a magic eraser for paint. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you just work at it, but don't paint on things that aren't varnished if you want to wipe them off. That's really the key to that one right there. That's one of the things that I did here is I varnished that because I knew I was going to be painting on it in a minute. Okay, grass. So if we were taking grass is the same as beards, but it's a different color. So you take a little bit. Oh, this is a very full. If you fill other bottles with your paint, don't fill them full because there's no room to shake. This one's full, full, full. So for a while there, we weren't able to find paint. It was a big problem for like all of the craft paint companies and everything during COVID. It's a big problem. So I think the glues, the freeze in Houston, shattered a bunch of the facilities that make the paints and stuff and the glues and adhesives, and it's crazy.
And Carol asked, was the gnome sign sealed before you painted?
No, no, it was not. Okay, I'm going to show you on this paper. These are my techniques to discuss here. If you were doing grass, you would do it upside down. And I think I want to touch that just a little bit there. And you can just pull grasses towards you. So you can make little clumps. And I'm doing just a very feathery. So sometimes my hand will stop and it won't go like exactly where I want it to. Like right there, it kind of did a break. And so I'll just stroke back over the top of it and kind of connect the dots. So don't feel like, and then you can layer it up and you can make it a little bit darker at the base. You can highlight, you can do some other things. So that is the fun way. That's your beard technique, your mustache techniques, your, I make a beautiful killer rope with this technique, using just kind of the shape following thing and then making some little curly cues and stuff like that. It's a really cool technique. So you can make it really furry. Okay, what are we on now?
Next we're to the Duster Stippler.
Okay. If you guys are finding this interesting, give us hearts, give us thumbs up so that we know that you're enjoying it. And then please ask questions because they're inspiring to us and we like to know what you're wondering about.
Janice said, should you seal before adding anything?
Before you're adding anything, like... So if you're unsure of something, you could do that. You want to be careful with your varnish. Sometimes varnish, even though it's matte, note on the varnish, even though it's matte, if your varnish has been sitting there, it'll separate and your one part, and I don't know which part it is, but one part will settle to the bottom and the other part will be at the top. I think the shiny stuff stays on top. So if you don't, some people like to roll, I just shake. Shake your varnish because if you want it truly matte, that will make it so you can paint back over it. If it's shiny, your paint may not want to stick. If you make it shiny and your paint isn't sticking, then you can lightly sand it and then paint back over it. So those are some deeper knowledge things to know.
And then Sandra asked, when sealing a project, can you use a polyacrylic or should you just use a polyurethane?
I use polyurethane. I have for years. It's going to be all weatherproof and all of that. So I'm going to switch to a new piece of palette paper. Okay. Okay, let's continue. We are on the Duster Stippler. We have 3 techniques we're going to show you with this. We're going to show you snow, we're going to show you large dry brushing, and we're going to show you blending. Okay, which I think the large dry brushing is kind of the same thing. Okay, so we're going to go here. Let's do a little bit of the dry brushing, and actually could do a little bit of the blending too, so maybe I'll do both. Okay, on this board, when we already did this color here, let's add a little bit more color to that with this brush. Get out a couple of these. These brushes are almost indestructible. This one has been with me a long time. You can see I've got paint junked up in the ferrule. It's stained. You can tell I had it in water somewhere for a long time. They get a little denser. This one will be a little floppier because he's new and he doesn't have stuff built up in him. I kind of like them when they get a little bit built up. But if I'm going to do snow, I want something that's got a little flex to it. Okay, so this one I'll use for the dry brushing. Well, I'll use this one for the blending. So I'm going to go into that purpley grapey color. I'm going to rub off the color on a paper towel, very much like when we use our stencil brushes, but this is bigger. Okay, and then I can just gently pressure and build that color. So that makes it so I can feather my blended colors together. And then if I wanted to, I could put just a little bit more lightness to it. Blend off on the same area on the paper towel to keep it like a blended color. And then I could, a little bit bright. So I could tell the second I set that down that it was going to be a little bit too bright, so I just immediately went back to my paper towel. Okay, so now I'm feather soft. And then I'll start pressing a little bit more so you can see the difference between here and here. It should be subtle and it shouldn't be bold. And you can dip into a blue and you can back and forth, just always be wiping off on your paper towel. but that's how you can extend that blend. And notice that at some points I'll stop blending in little circles and I'll start just kind of sweeping. And that's a nice technique too. And then I could pick up a little bit more. Dirty brush. And then I could make it a little bit bolder where I've already made it a little bit bolder. Okay, so that's how you can extend a blending thing. And that is what I have done. Rusty, can you push that end? My back is giving me fits. Feel like an invalid. Okay, so that is how we moved these colors in and out of each other throughout the project on this one. And then this one right here, which I love this project because it's got a little bit of metallics in with it, a little bit of rust. This is a piece of double stick tape, and these are little feet for coffee, for coasters. And then we just painted over the top of them, so it super looks like grommets and hardware, and it's not at all, but this is just a neat metallic-y looking thing. So just changing the color changes the whole effect.
All right, I have quite a bit of questions about sealing, varnishing.
Okay.
Just polyurethane yellow.
Polyurethane, not in my opinion. I have 30 years of projects that I painted, and I used to sell them, and then I quit selling them finally because every time I got rid of one, I needed it. So I every time, so I just quit doing that. And so for 30 years, I have projects and I don't have yellowing.
Okay. I brought, Linda said she bought the scroll cookbook stand. She wants to know if she should seal that.
You don't have to. That's the same wood that we're painting on all the time. You don't have to seal it, but definitely you would want to varnish it because when food spatters on it, and if I were you, that's Linda. Mm-hmm. If I was Linda, I would seal it when you're done with 2 or 3 coats of your varnish, and then I would also wax it afterwards because the wax will resist, like, you know, spatters and food. And I was cutting into the strawberries that we raised, and I got strawberries everywhere, you know, so, and then the sticky sticks and, you know, and stuff like that. So the wax will help that resist, but the poly will keep it sealed in.
Okay. And then I had one more.
You thought that was going to be a simple answer.
I did. Do you recommend using a matte spray before varnishing? That was from Kat.
Kat. We went in front of a cat rental place for the big tractors and stuff, and I was like, Kat, you're famous. No, I would not matte spray before. I would just go ahead, unless on the cookbook stand, back to Linda's cookbook stand, I might matte spray that instead of brush spraying that with a couple of coats because of all of those raised edge, all of the, if you did the scroll one, it's got a lot of cut detail. Anytime you have a lot of cut detail, spray's not a bad option. And the spray that I like, DecoArt does make one, but the spray that I like is the Krylon 1311 matte spray. And you have to find it. It's findable.
I think that we have a link to that for Amazon.
Yeah, it's a great product. It is. If you ever sign your artwork or make a note on your artwork with a marker or a Sharpie or anything like that, and varnish over it, the varnish will make the ink smear. So you always want to spray if you've signed anything or done, like some people use a marker to, on that spring porch sign, I used a marker to make the outline detail, and that's a big trend right now with all the cutout signs and stuff. If you do that, you want to spray that first because it will seal in the marker and it won't make the marker disappear. The marker will smear.
We have a few more questions about varnishing. We will get those after.
We'll type the answers
Yeah,
to
we
those.
still have a few more brushes to cover, and we're getting long.
Getting long. Yeah, a lot of words, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay, let's finish up the Duster Stippler. Dry our glasses. So now we're going to do the snow texture. And that is Mr. Snowman. You guys, this is the cutest little project. Okay, so he has some really great details, But the texture of the snow is one of the things that you just absolutely want to be like, oh my gosh, he looks so snowy. And then I used, DecoArt has an amazing product to glaze with. I used that on it. You want to check this video out because it's amazing. And actually this dry rubbing up here on his hat is also something that I would have used a big brush like this to do that with, okay, because it's big enough. If you use the domes on a really big area like this, you might get a little streaky. So you got to get bigger and bigger. And to get the bigger brush, you've got to get into these Duster Stipplers. They're super cheap, I mean affordable. So they're not a burden to buy, if that makes sense. So if I'm snowing, I'm going to snow on this blue. A little bit of white paint. Always shake. Yeah. And we're gonna go into Mr. Loose Guy. So he's our newest guy. If I had, and every now and again you'll lose a hair. This one has not been known to lose hairs. The domes, every now and again there's a batch. If you ever have a problem with the brush, you just let us know, we'll take care of it. But every now and again, I don't know if they just have literally like a batch that comes through and somebody didn't have the right amount of glue or something like that. But you're always going to get 1 or 2 hairs, but you should never lose a lot. So if you do, let us know. We'll take care of you. Okay, so we're going to use this dry. We're going to pick up just a little bit and stipple it around. So that's what it should look like on the brush. It doesn't have anything on the edge and it's just on the tip. Now I'm going to come over here with my paper towel. Notice offloading is almost like the common theme with all of this stuff. Okay, so then if I'm stippling with this, if I'm making snow, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly texture first. So I'm going to get some texture going. And I could just make knock, knock. Okay, so light texture, then I can pick up a little bit more, and then I can increase that texture. So I can layer it in, but the openness of this brush just makes just the best snow. And then if I wanted to be heavy with it, now this is gonna be super heavy, so just know that this is not what you would do for this little block of wood, okay? But you can go soft, 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 and you can like make it into little mounds of snow. And then you can go back and you can kind of highlight the snow. Okay, so you can totally make layers and layers and layers of your snow, and then you could spatter on top of it to make it look like stuff, and you could snowflake, and it'd be awesome. Super awesome. Okay, and now we're going to do the nope.
Adding the Duster
Dry
Stippler.
brushing?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And Lena's with us today.
Lena! Hello. So Lena is one of our teachers, and she has been being baby mama and career woman and all the things, and yeah, we miss her. Okay, so we are going to we're gonna make this like our antiquing on the edges. So we're gonna dry brush into this and stipple it off on the palette and then wipe it off. And then just with a couple of flicks. Now this has got some damage on it where something was laying on it or whatever. And I think I dried it off too much. Now I'm gonna just kick it off of the edge and let that just kind of smear in. And it kind of gives you a featherier look than with the dome, with the foam brush. You guys say hi to Lena and tell her we want to see her during her summer break back on our videos. For those of you that don't know, she's my daughter-in-law, okay? Okay. So anyway, so there's 2 effects. You've got your spattering over here that made a frame, and then you've got this kind of dry brushing look, but in a big dome kind of situation. So that can just sit in the water, and that's not going to hurt that brush. And now we're into the dome brush. We are going to not talk about the dome brush for stenciling. We all know about the dome brush for stenciling. If you don't, it's in like every single video that we share. There is no doubt that they are for that. Okay, so we are going to shade and highlight. We're going to show you what that looks like. Okay, so we have, this is like what we call an ombre. So it's dark up here, it's light down here. So you'll start with the middle color, and then you'll highlight the bottom and shade the top with your stencil in place. Okay, so we've done that on the eggs. We've done that on the Farm Fresh. We've got that. We've got this in the Allegiance, and here, and here, and here. Like, I use this technique all the time. So we're gonna take our snowy piece. I hate it when my examples are ugly, but today we're just going to example. Okay, so we'll do our bee on here. He's got some sticky adhesive on the back of him. I'm gonna use a dome brush, and then we're going to flip our paper towel over. And so this has got a blue background, and I wanna just maybe highlight just a little bit. Highlighting and shading are the same thing, but highlighting is light and shading is dark. So they're the same exact technique. And then we'll rub off on the paper towel. And then I'm going to pretend like this bee is just gonna get a highlight ombre all across his edges. So because I've dried off on the paper towel, I'm not gonna be like base coating him. I'm just feather dusting him. And so I'm swirling and I'm walking it in just ever so slightly. And now let's take a peek. Okay, so see how that just did this? Oh, that's really kind of cool.
That is cool.
This, I like this. I don't love the snow, but this dreamy background with this ombre looking bee in there, that's a neat background technique. You could take a be kind word, or you could do some other things on top and have a beautiful project. That's cool. That's an accidental happy moment right there.
Accidents.
Okay, so we are going to texture. So same thing with, take these guys. Texture. Okay, so when we're on Mr. Coffee stencil here, when we put our rust on there, we use the dome brush and we just barely tapped it and textured it. So it has an open look to it, and it just kind of fade blends. So let me show you what that kind of looks like. I'm not going to do that color. Well, let me do something. I'm trying to think of something that will show. Let's do the gray. And let's go, well, it's almost the same as this big texture brush. So we'll go in here, we load just a little bit, and then you can go, yep, that's not showing. Remember that contrast thing? When the colors are close together, they don't show, and that's why we like it for the background. But let me, okay, we'll go over here. We'll pretend like this needed some gray. So we're gonna go here, and if you barely tap, you're gonna get a nice little texture on there. Or see, can you get in that close right there? That actually makes a nice little framing look right there. So I'll go a little bit more super soft. I'm not hitting this. If I was hitting it hard, it would look like this. Okay, so we don't want that. And so then we go into our blue water. And because we varnished this wipes right off. Now, it doesn't work the same way with wax. So if you're wanting to remove something, if you're wanting to paint on top of wax, you're gonna need to degrease the wax and give it a little sand. It's a lot more work. So be careful about waxing. Make sure you're done with your project and you're not gonna touch it again. Okay, so we got texture. And I wanted to show the dry rub, which is here. And I think that's basically the same as the Duster Stippler as well, but I wanna just show how you can pick that color up. So you can take it and you can rub the texture and totally extend it around. Use less pressure where you want it more blended. Use heavier pressure where you want it to be stronger. Okay, and I think our last one is our round brush. We've got a couple techniques with our round brush. Now my favorite one is this brush by DecoArt. It's a number 3 round. It is really hard to find a good round brush. I mean, really, really hard. I cannot stress it enough. You want a good one. I vetted them. They come too long, they come too short, they come too thin, they don't have the right flex, they don't have the right bounce, they don't have spring. There's so many things and reasons. Like, it really is almost a geeky, nerdy thing. It's like, you know, using the right flour if you're a baker, or having the right soil if you're a gardener. This matters. So if you're gonna buy a round, buy one, buy this number 3, and you will be golden. Okay, so I wanna show you how to connect the bridging. And I don't know if this is, exactly the right blue, but we're gonna, blue. We're gonna pretend. Okay, I wet my brush. You usually start with a damp brush. It's not wet at all. I don't have any drops of moisture on my brush. And I'm gonna get my glasses on and wipe them off. I don't know why summer makes my forehead sweat, but it does. They sigh. Okay. So we are going to go on here. Now we've got this varnished, so I can just wipe it off. Now this is important. The loading of your round is very important. If I'm using my round as a flat, which is what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to flatten it out. I'm not scooping. Okay, let me wipe that off. I'm flattening it in the paint. And what it's going to do is it's going to form a laser crisp, sharp flat. And then I can go, notice here with my Peter Cottontail, I can barely tell that there's any bridgings in there because my contrast isn't strong. But when I come here, the blue to the coral is a little bit more contrasty, so I might want to make the bridging disappear. Talk to my brush dry. So I can use my flat. My handle is going to be almost completely upright, okay? If I come back like this, it's going to make a mess. You have to use them upright. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to shape follow, and now I've connected that bridging. And I can go along here, shape follow. And with little amounts of paint, you're not going to make a bunch of ridges. It's going to look real clunky if you have a bunch of ridges, so you want to be careful of that. Just want to use your brush flat, okay? And now we'll talk about drop shadowing. We touched on this last week. I didn't continue on because that brush is the best liner brush like in the world, I think, but it's super thin for doing your drop shadow, okay? So, this number 3 round can sometimes be difficult for us to get as well. So be careful with that, that you get it when we have it. I'm literally, like, we sell stencils, we offer brushes, if that makes sense. Yeah. So we're not trying to be like, oh my God, let me sell you a brush. That is not what this is about. This is about giving you the right tools so that when you get our stencils, it's gonna be perfect. Yeah. You know, that's what I want for you, is that you have the tools. Okay, so the amount of pain in the cartoucherie is ridiculous with these tools these days. But it's worth it to get the right ones, because if you get on Amazon, if you've ever looked at like stencil brushes on Amazon, like, I almost dare you to do it. There's garbage. Like, it's just junk garbage. And I'm just like, oh my God, these people are getting stencils that they're paying good money for, and then they're getting these stencil brushes that will never do what they're supposed to do, like, ever. Okay, drop shadow. We're gonna choose a gray, and I'm going to water it down. Anytime you want to use a liner as, I'll show you a little trick. That's kind of fun. And this is literally, I think, the last drop shadow and connecting bridging. Yep. So this is the last little bit, but I think it's like one of the neatest examples. If I use, so I got a dry brush and I pick up basically some dry paint. It's just paint that's out. If I try to make a really long line, notice that my paint starts leaving like right after the first swirl, okay? If I get a little water in my brush, ink consistency, and I keep my brush on its tiptoe, it has to be on the tip of the liner or the round. Both of them work the same way. And I always like my ferrule to be dry, so the silver part is the ferrule. And when it's wet, I kind of lose control. So now I'll take the same brush and I'll swirl down. And notice I can keep going and going and going and going. And now I'm running out of paint there. So when you have the right posture and you have the right amount of water in your brush, it will take you, you can write the alphabet with it when you get it nailed down. So water is your friend. This makes a good dry brush, honestly, like that technique that we used earlier for the highlighting. But if you're not intending to highlight and you wish that you were indeed lining, then that's a problem. Okay, so then this one, I'm gonna get down here, get my brush reloaded, dry the ferrule. Every now and again, a little too much. Sometimes when you're experienced, you can feel like the weight of the brush feels a little off or whatever. So then this, when you're drop shadowing, you're gonna be all the way over to the right or all the way over to the left. So on the side of your letter. So if I'm going to start on my left, then I'm going to be right next to that. And then if I want to do under, then I'm going to be right under that. Okay. So notice my posture. I'll do inside P. And notice I never, go one more time over here on the attractive piece of paper. If I'm on my tip, I'm fine. If I press a little, I'm thicker. If I press a lot, I'm even thicker. And if I press a whole lot, I'm even thicker. So the pressure of your brush is going to be where your control is. And then I want to show one more. It's always one more thing. I feel like I'm a bedtime story girl.
I have one more too.
Okay. So watch my hand though as I'm making this. So my line is here. I'm dragging my wrist. Everything else is locked. If I'm pushing harder, I'm just pushing harder. I'm not leaning harder. After I'm pushing even harder, I'm still just pushing harder. So it's a pressure, it's not a lean backwards. And people get real confused with that. Mm-hmm. And you drive with your shoulder. So whatever you're doing, you move your shoulder. It's old-fashioned handwriting taught way back in the day. But you write with your shoulder and everything will be pretty and smooth and gorgeous. Okay, your turn.
Do you ever use the round brush to clean up mistakes on your project that maybe you didn't catch?
Yeah, well, you can if they're fresh. Mm-hmm. So say you're stenciling. Well, actually, that you didn't catch. I see where you're going. Yeah. Okay. So, yes.
So if we catch them, we typically use the click eraser.
Yeah.
But sometimes we might not catch them in time.
One of the benefits of having a limited palette of paints, we have 84, 86, something like that. We've limited ourselves to this many paints and that's it. And that's been a big thing. But I can look at this board, I can take out my color that I have of coral and know it's gonna match. Yeah. It's kind of cool. So let's take our coral and let's pretend like this Y shouldn't be there. So you could just you could also pretend like it needed to be skinny. So load it like you're gonna do like that fill in the bridging, which we just talked about. And so you could take your coral and you could skinify it. Now he's not gonna base coat very well because he is dark blue. But you can do a couple of coats of that. So I need to dry it in between. But yes, you can totally just fix your mistakes.
Yeah, just go along the edge, help with your little bit of bleeding under that you might have.
Yeah, and honestly, there's one brush that we're not talking about here, and it's the flat, and I actually prefer the flat for that, and it's not part of the thing. These flat brushes are utilitarian as all get out, and I want to fix them.
That's the workhorse.
Yeah.
That one is part of our sale today. Mm-hmm. We'll share that.
So what you can do when you are doing the flat instead of the round is you could take just a corner load So I've got it just on that chiselly corner. Blend it over here just to flatten it out. Go over here. And then I can do the same thing. My brush is basically upright. And it just flattens it out. Rounds can tend to give you a little bit of an edge or a groove, and the flat won't do that. So if you just side load just a teeny bit and blend it, then you will not end up with a big ridge, and it just takes care of it by yourself. These brushes are, for the most part, super affordable. I think you're gonna love them. I wanna see practice shots.
Yes.
Please, 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 let us know what you're doing. Let us know what has helped. Let us know when you have questions, so we love it.
And I've had a couple people ask, as of right now, the Duster Stippler is out of stock. They were in stock this morning. We made sure we updated all of the stock. So I have a message into our manufacturing. They're going to check the stock for me. We will, excuse me, if we do have some in stock, we'll post it on our Facebook page. So just keep
watch
your eye on
watch the inventory levels. I mean, just if it's available, get it when you can, because you know, and you really shouldn't need more than, you know, like a cup full of brushes will do your thing, except for the dome brushes, which you need a lot of dome brushes.
Yeah.
But besides that, you just get a couple of basics and you're going to be happy with them. I love it. Thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate you.